NCAIED is shorthand for the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act. That is our land claims that we negotiated with Congress in the early 1970s, right during the height of the self-determination era. And we are organized differently in Alaska because of the time and manner in which we settled our land claims, and more importantly, when we entered the Union.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Native Edge. I am Chris James. I'm here with my team. We are again in our DC office. Right, Michaela, where are we today? We're in DC?
Yep, we're in DC, back here again for round two.
Round two. A lot of activities going on in DC. We have some Hill visits today and tomorrow. I have a dinner with a nice corporation tonight, so looking forward to that. Are you doing anything fun here in DC? You never get a chance, Michaela, to do anything fun, right?
Well, actually, since we're recording 2 episodes today and we get done at I think 4:30 the last one. So I'm gonna go look up some spots to go eat.
All right.
To actually try.
All right, so you got my son, my oldest son, he is doing an internship with Senator Kelly from Arizona. So I had breakfast with him today, and it's amazing how you watch a teenager become a man. It's incredible, because all of a sudden this is the first time, his first 40-hour-a-week job, and his first time really, we grew up in the DC area, but he hasn't really been in DC in a long time, and he is just thriving, and just the policy work he's talking about, I was like, wow, this is not a kid anymore, which is pretty amazing. It makes me very proud. And I'm sure our listeners are going through that same experience, of watching their children grow up. But that's not what we're here to talk about, Michaela. Today's going to be an awesome podcast today, because we have a awesome guest, and we're going to talk about some amazing things. Nicole, introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me, Chris. My name's Nicole Borromeo, and I serve as the president of the NCAIED Regional Association.
So I can't wait to get into the NCAIED Regional Association, because I've had a relationship with that association for a very long time. But I want to learn a lot more about you, Nicole.
Okay.
I want to, so where are you from, and tell us a little bit about your background.
I am from a very small town in interior Alaska, McGrath.
Okay.
And a lot of my family still lives out in the sub-region. I went to high school down in Sitka at a state-run public boarding school, and I live in Anchorage now.
Okay. And tell me about, so geographically, and the watchers can see, I like to talk with my hands all the time, Nicole, so the watchers can see. I have this map of Alaska. When you say interior of Alaska, which direction? Is it north, south? If Anchorage is sort of a good point, which way would you go? Is it closer to Fairbanks or up towards the north?
Closer to Fairbanks, yep. Yeah. I have a built-in map too, so right in the middle of the state.
You know what's amazing to me, and I don't know if people really realize how vast Alaska is.
Definitely not.
Can you sort of explain that a little bit? Because the first time I was in Alaska was probably, 2002 maybe. Okay. And when I went up there, I had really never traveled anywhere. I was like, oh my gosh. And one of the first things you see, and maybe in the museum or somewhere, is a map of Alaska on top of the United States. So talk a little bit about how big Alaska is.
Right. I always like to tell folks when they ask, when should I come? Where should I go? My standard reply is, you need to come 12 times. I think of the state broken up by our 12 geographic regions from the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act. But if you were to superimpose the state over a map of the lower 48, we stretch from Florida to California and then all the way up into the Dakotas. So when I said I went to high school down in Sitka, that would be similar to going to high school in Georgia. And then I'm from McGrath, and that would be where maybe Ohio is.
Wow, that's an amazing. So talk about when you graduated high school, you were doing some boarding school. Where did you go to college?
I went to college a few places, but I graduated from the University of Alaska Anchorage.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went to college a few places too. I started at one, and then I went to another, and then a friend of mine from high school, he's like, let's move to the coast of North Carolina. Let's go. We were living in the mountains of North Carolina. Cherokee Reservation is in the mountains. And he's like, if we don't do it now, we may never do it. And he was like, I ended up moving on the coast of North Carolina, but not such a geographic as you mentioned between, but so I know the feeling of going to a bunch of different schools. So you graduated, what line of work did you decide to go into? I know did you go to law school, or where did you go?
Well, when I was at Mount Edgmon, the state of Alaska sued the native village of Venati. And as part of our required curriculum, we needed to take Alaska issues to graduate. Mount Edgmon has several requirements that are different from the regular post-elementary requirements. And I just became very interested in federal Indian law and policy. Our assignment was to draft an amicus brief at a high school level for the court. It didn't matter if we wanted to draft it from the vantage point of the tribe or from the state. I drafted mine from the tribe's vantage point. And then I helped a friend for the state's side as well, so I could learn, both sides of the case. And from then, I just had a strong desire to go to law school. Went to undergrad. Unfortunately, my dad was diagnosed with cancer my senior year of undergrad and ended up passing away. So I wasn't ready to sit for the LSAT, and I came back to DC. Senator Stevens offered me an intern. I thought it was an internship, but he was hiring staff assistants at the time to work on the Senate Appropriations Committee. So me and a couple of my friends moved out here, and I spent 2 years doing defense appropriations before going to law school.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What are some of your experiences up on the Hill when you were all of a sudden, being thrown right into policy?
Right, yeah.
So give us a little bit of that experience.
It was an interesting time to be a Hill staffer. It was during Iraq and Afghanistan. So the appropriation process was firing on all cylinders, so to speak, and it wasn't the annual cycle that the Hill was used to. It seemed like every bill that was moving, there would be some appropriation package put into it to fund the war efforts. And it was different from, I think, what some may experience, obviously, in the personal office, but seeing the committee structure was just an invaluable time for me.
Yeah, it's amazing the networks up there and how interconnected things are. Because I even from an outsider, I'm like, I know a little bit, but now that my son's working over there, I mean, he's telling me these things I was just I didn't even really think about, including his ability to go to various events after work, and just the networking that's constantly going on. You just don't think about it, and I think that's so valuable to have that experience. But also, it's valuable, to build those networks, because I bet some of those relationships that you built when you were doing that is probably a long time. They may have lasted forever, I bet.
They have, yes. I still see my friends and colleagues from that time whenever I come to town. I
would always encourage anyone that's looking for some type of internship. DC is such a great place. I wish I had done it.
Absolutely. I mean, I thought I was applying for an internship when
Yeah.
I moved out here.
And then you got a job.
And then it was a job.
Yeah, for like 2 years.
Yes.
So, and then you went to law school? Or?
And then I went to
Yeah.
law school. I actually went to the Pre-Law Summer Institute first in Albuquerque.
Okay.
When I went to PLSI, I was going to go to the University of Arizona's law school. And through PLSI, I ended up going to the University of Washington instead. And I chose to move to UW because Bob Anderson was a professor at the time, and I really wanted to study under him. And it was just an incredible school. Bob is a fantastic professor, in addition to solicitor and his many other hats that he's worn over the years.
And geographically, it's not a bad place to live in the Pacific Northwest. Not that I don't love Arizona, but sometimes coming to the desert, we've hit already. It's mid-July, and we've hit the 117 temperatures already.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
So you spent some time up, at University of Washington.
Right in Seattle.
Did you? What was the next step of your career?
The next step was moving over to Oahu, actually. And part of the reason I chose to go to UW instead of U of A is my husband was stationed up at Whidbey Island.
Okay.
And we got orders to Wing 2 over in Kaneohe Marine Corps Base.
Okay.
So we moved to Oahu, and it was during the height of the housing crisis.
Yeah.
Getting a job was tough. Hawaii has its own law school with a strong preference in hiring local kids, which I totally understood. So I volunteered for a few months at the Legal Aid Society of Hawaii and did a variety of different public interests down there. And then they had some grant money come through the state. And so I did housing and consumer protection for a few years there in Honolulu.
That's amazing. Hawaii is another ball game as well. So you have the Alaskan experience, and now you have a whole Hawaii experience, and some of the setup. One of the things we just recently opened an office in Hawaii, and we have we have one person there. It's a one-person office, but we do some support around small business and some of the other support around entrepreneurship in Hawaii. So it is definitely one of our areas of growth as an organization, but also an area I don't think people really realize how much need is there, and especially entrepreneurial growth is so needed there.
Yes, absolutely. There's a really strong Alaska-Hawaii connection too. And in fact, when I was a Hill staffer, Senator Stevens was the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, but Senator Dan Inouye from Hawaii was the ranking member. But they also were co-chairs of the Defense Subcommittee. So they never switched ranking and chairman. They were co-chairs. That's just how strong the relationship is between them, and it's really carried through to our states.
Which is so important because we're not seeing those relationships as much. And that's not that long ago, if you really think about it. That 15 years, maybe 10, 15 years? Maybe a little longer?
Yeah, closer to 20.
20 years?
Yeah. Dating myself.
It's not that long ago. It's 20.
It seems like yesterday.
It does.
Or it really does, seem like 5-10 years ago, but it's been a while.
But the relationships and those friendships that were there, it just seems people were a lot nicer to each other then. And
it was a different era, for sure, of policymakers. A lot of World War II vets who put the best interest of the country, ahead of their own desires. And it was okay to disagree on policy as long as you were getting to the best policy for the country. We're in a different era now.
It's a little bit it's scary for me because we're so polarized.
Yes.
And but the things that our organization cares about, and a lot of things that probably you and I align with, there should not be any politics about it. But unfortunately, I'm finding there is. So it's unfortunate sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had this great Hawaiian experience. You were there for a few years in Hawaii. What was next on your list?
Next was moving back home. When I went to DC, I always thought that I'd be here for, a year or so and then go back home. And I ended up being gone for 10 years between my husband's military assignments and then law school. So I was definitely ready to move back home. So we went back to Anchorage. That's where we're currently living. And I was really fortunate that I was able to move into a really dream job, right, almost immediately. I spent some time working with the Sonosky Chambers law firm, and then Julie Kitka was leading the Alaska Federation of Natives at the time, and she was looking for a new general counsel because Carol Daniel had just recently retired. And I did a short contract with AFN after when I first came back to the state before I went to Sonosky. And she called me and asked if I'd be interested in moving back over to AFN, and spent 11 years there.
So I'm sure we've met then.
Okay.
And I know we used to, so I used to be at the U.S. Small Business Administration back in the day. And I think while you were at AFN doing legal counsel, I know we had email exchanged back in the day.
I'm pretty confident I wrote you a letter or two.
Yeah. It'd be fun just to try, those letters are probably so gone, but it would always be fun just to look back and be like, wow, I hope I helped. Tell us what is AFN, because you and I know, and a lot of our listeners, a lot of times we love to use acronyms, and a lot of our listeners probably have no idea of what AFN is. Can you just give a little explanation of what it is?
Sure. The Alaska Federation of Natives is the largest statewide Native organization in Alaska, very similar to the National Congress of American Indians. AFN was started in the mid-'60s when we were in the process as Alaska Natives of negotiating our land claims with the state of Alaska. And at the time, our early leaders knew that we needed to speak with one voice and to strike the best deal that we could with Congress. And AFN was the vehicle in which our leaders negotiated our land claim settlement with Congress.
And you have, you do advocacy work as well as AFN is in almost every sector, health and economic development, all sorts of things.
Very broad mission, very broad mission. It's almost an impossible mission in a lot of ways, but AFN is designed to, now that the land claims have been settled, there was talk early on about whether AFN needed to continue to exist. And our leadership recognized the importance of a statewide Native organization, so AFN took on a new charge, which is to promote the cultural, socioeconomic, traditional values of Alaska Natives. We advocate on issues of mutual concern through AFN, and you're right, in every sector almost, AFN does weigh in. A lot of public policy, a lot of advancement for Alaska Natives in legal areas as well. We, of course, got to know each other on the economic side of things. But whenever Alaska Natives need to quickly mobilize and speak with one voice, it's almost always through AFN.
And great partner, too. From always having the ability to reach out to someone at AFN, even when I was in government, to when I've been outside in government with the National Center. AFN's always been a great partner, and always been if I come to Alaska, we've done, roundtables together and all sorts of things. So, what a great partner. I was just emailing with Ben
Good.
last week. So I want to continue that partnership because what a great organization. And so did you go to another organization after AFN, or are we up to where you are now?
After AFN, I was asked by the Speaker of the House, Bryce Edgmon. He is from Dillingham, our first Alaska Native Speaker of the House. He asked if I would be interested in coming over and serving as counsel to the House majority. So that's where I went immediately after AFN. And we have a bipartisan caucus in both the Senate and the House right now in Alaska. We're getting a fantastic amount of work done in our state legislature. And I thought, this would be a really neat opportunity to move over and use my skills in the legislature for a little bit. Yeah. And then Kim Rittmeyer ended up moving on from my current role. And I was having a fantastic time in the legislature, high job satisfaction, working on really neat bills and law and policy. And I had a great conversation with the speaker and just told him, this position isn't going to open again for a really long time. And he said, I think you should apply for it then.
That's pretty amazing. Working at the federal level in policy and law, and now working at a state level, I commend you because that's the work that you did really probably moved the ball down the court because you had both experiences. Mm-hmm. So that's great.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your current job, because and then I want to get into a little bit of the policy work. But
sure.
tell us about the association and how it's set up and all about it.
Absolutely. The NCAIED Regional Association, and another acronym.
Love the acronyms.
NCAIED is shorthand for the Alaska Native Claim Settlement Act. That is our land claims that we negotiated with Congress in the early 1970s, right during the height of the self-determination era, and we are organized differently in Alaska because of the time and manner in which we settled our land claims, and more importantly, when we entered the Union. The U.S. government was no longer making treaties with tribes and Native Americans and Alaska Natives as a way of settling land claims. They had removed that power, the House, in an appropriations bill, and so therefore we did not have an option to negotiate a treaty with the United States. So what we did instead is we legislated our Land Claim Settlement Act, and through the legislation, AFN was formed as the sort of one-stop policy shop that our Native leaders spoke through and did the best that they could with the tools that they had at the time. And so we are in a new era, if you will, up in Alaska because of NCAIED. And my organization that I have the pleasure and privilege really of helping to lead right now is our it's for our regional corporations. Yeah. So we don't have reservations in Alaska. Mm-hmm. Instead, Congress decided to create a corporate structure for us, and they did so with 12 regional geographic corporations in the state. We also have a 13th corporation for Alaska Natives who were living outside of the state at the time. And under each of the 12 regional corporations are a number of village corporations as well. We have upwards of 200 village corporations that are umbrellaed underneath the 12 regional corporations. My organization is the membership organization of the 12 regional corporations.
And with these, with your membership, with your members, tell us a little bit about what they do. When people hear of corporations, I don't know if you and I know what it is, but give us a little bit of what is Alaska Native Corporation, and really how does it do economic development for the region, or how does it support the region?
So when we negotiated our land claim settlement with Congress, instead of vesting our retained lands in tribal governments, Congress instead passed title on to our corporations. But the corporations at the regional level don't own the land completely. Instead, they split the estate. So the regional corporations own the subsurface, everything from the ground down, and the village corporations own the surface estate, so everything from the ground up. And they intertied the corporations together that way. And then Congress charged the regional corporations with providing for the social and economic well-being of Alaska Natives. So through our land claims, we received almost $1 billion to be split amongst the 12 and the 13th regional corporation. It didn't come as a lump sum. It came over many years. And it sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but not as much as you might think. And so we had to be very smart in how we spent those funds, and organized ourselves. And now our corporations are major economic drivers for the state of Alaska and the world, really. We employ individuals in every state. In fact, 40,000 is the number that I last heard, the workforce in the lower 48. $6 billion in economic endeavors in the state of Alaska, $2 billion alone in wages, almost 25,000 employees within the state of Alaska. And so we are a major economic engine.
And tell us some of the sectors that the Alaska Native corporations focus in. I'm sure they're all, but I know that, I guess, geographically probably, determines some of the sectors, but tell us a little bit about some of your businesses.
Honestly, I mean, it's anything you can think of. Within the state, there's a very big oil and gas footprint. By and large, Alaska Natives do support responsible resource development. We've been good stewards of the land. We're going to continue to be good stewards of our lands. And we also do a fair amount of government contracting through the 8A program, which is how we got to know each other. So through that program, we have been able to return high value to the federal government and taxpayers. We just have an excellent record of the work that we do in all kinds of different areas. Throughout the country. My village corporation that I'm the chair of is as well. We wear many hats in Alaska. We have contracts in Turkey, and we do some construction management throughout through one of our 8As. We do work for the CDC. I mean, it's just an incredible opportunity for us to empower ourselves as Alaska Natives. We are constantly looking for ways to partner with lower 48 tribes as well. So if anybody's listening out there and is looking for a partner, Alaska is a fertile ground.
Well, that maybe in the future we can do some combined matchmaking.
Okay.
I think that'd be really fun to do, to match some of our companies together.
Like that.
Because I think the power of two companies to go after a project, or the power of that combination, is amazing. So tell me a little bit. I think now our listeners are sort of probably getting an idea or understanding of what an Alaska Native corporation, what your association does. Can you talk a little bit about the economic benefit? Because a lot of people, they probably, they're like, okay, these ANCs, they get contracts, they do, or they're doing mining, or they're, how does that trickle down into the region? I think people really are curious. I don't know if people quite understand that all of that, all the companies, all the other projects that you're doing, it goes right back into the communities, right? Or right back into the region?
Yes. So our corporate structure is unique, and that word gets used a lot, and I think, lost sometimes on listeners, but we're not like a regular Fortune 500 company. Congress has charged us with a legal duty to provide for the social economic welfare of Alaska Natives. And they did that through ANCSA by making us shareholders. And our corporations at the regional level and at the village level have a duty to return dividends to Alaska Natives who are shareholders in their respective corporations. So that's how the economic benefit trickles back down into rural Alaska and also into our cities where we have a very large footprint as well as Alaska Native people. Over the years, we have collectively paid out almost $200 million in scholarships alone, and $5 billion in dividends since ANCSA was passed.
Yeah, and some of the villages in Alaska, your population are often even. I've been to villages with less than 100 people.
Oh yes.
So a lot of times that remoteness. Having that economic benefit come in, is really important because there's really often areas there's not jobs or anything.
Absolutely, especially in the middle of winter, when stove oil is at a premium, dividends are greatly appreciated.
So, and also talk a little bit about some of your members even set up, I know Siri, I think, sets up the healthcare clinic as well and has some partners. So it's not only just building companies to do work, they're also building companies to support healthcare and other things, correct?
Right. Siri does have a hand in healthcare for sure throughout the state, but mostly that's not run by our regional corporations. The healthcare sector is powered by our tribal nonprofits.
Okay.
So all of the 12 Alaska Native regional corporations have a corresponding tribal nonprofit at the regional level too. And the regional tribal nonprofits are the ones who do, by and large, most of the healthcare in the state. And we also have a very unique model of doing healthcare. We have joined together in a compact with the federal government, and we administer our own healthcare. We've gone from really alarming in not a good way practices when the Indian Health Service was administering healthcare for us to being recognized across the world for our cutting edge facilities, and non-natives even go to our hospital in Anchorage. It's the only trauma-free hospital in the state.
It's a pretty amazing facility, and just the oftentimes the Anchorage is the only place that people can get to from some of the rural and remote areas. So they have to fly in if there's an emergency. It's so they've also set up places for people to temporarily stay, hotels and things, which is I know that some of the ANCs own those as well, or.
Yes. Yes. Some are in the hospitality industry and are doing quite well. Nana has a big stake in the downtown Marriott. So we like to promote the downtown Marriott as a Native part-owned lodging option.
That's great. So you've been on board for about 2 months. You have all your members. I guess you're set up. Their board. Or that you have like a board, or how does it work? What's your structure of the organization?
All 12 regional corporations have one seat on our board. So we have a 12-member board. We meet quarterly, and very similar to AFN, we work on the pressing issues of the day and try and always work with consensus. That's one of our goals. And we really exist to work on issues of mutual concern. All of our members at this point are doing fantastic work in their own right, and they are constantly in DC and down in Juneau, moving their issues forward. But every now and then there needs to be quick decisions by all 12, and that's why the Inkster Regional Association exists.
Great. And so what are you working on now? What are some of the issues that you're moving the ball down the court? I know you're in DC this week, so
Yes.
Talk a little bit about some of those issues you're working on right now.
We, much like Indian country, are getting used to the new administration. There's been some changes. There's been some challenges, but I like to say wherever there's a challenge, there's a hidden opportunity right around the corner. So we're right now in the midst, similar to the tribes, of reintroducing ourselves to the new administration. Preparing for a lot of August visits. Our congressional delegation does a really good job of getting the administration up to Alaska during the recess schedule. So we're working with many different statewide Native organizations and preparing for those visits. And trying to do our part in helping the new federal officials understand the value that Alaska Natives, American Indians, and Native Hawaiians bring to the government through contracting in the 8A program. Those are sort of the hot topics of the day.
Yeah, it's a big education.
Yes,
it
big
doesn't
education
matter
campaign.
which any type of change of administration. It's almost just always a re-education, and probably in about another year you'll have to go through again. Whatever, because people move on, and then you go through the whole cycle. So let's talk a little bit about one of the things is protecting the 8A program, and talk a little bit about that, and really maybe explain a little bit about the program and the benefits that go into the communities because of the program.
Right. Well,
do we have 3 hours?
and the expert here. Let me do my best to explain. No pressure. So through the 8A program in the Small Business Administration, there are set-asides for Alaska Natives and American Indian tribes and Native Hawaiians. And we compete for government contracts. And it used to be easier to receive the contracts. It's a little trickier now, but we're learning the ropes of the new administration, if you will. And through those government contracts, American Indians, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians do the work of the federal government. That building infrastructure is a big one. Cybersecurity, you name it. Whatever the federal government is involved in, almost always there will be a Native firm that will do the work. The economic benefits from those contracts then come back into our communities, and in Alaska they are paid out through dividends. Okay. So that's how the 8A program has worked for us as Alaska Natives, and through our corporate structure, then we return dividends to our shareholders.
And I like how you said it too. These are competitive.
Yes.
There's no handouts here. These contracts. You're often, first of all, to get 8A certified, that test is not easy.
No.
So you already have to establish yourself as a company.
That's right.
You already have to have a track record of business. You already have to be established. And then you have to go through that process, and then you still have to compete for a contract, even if it's a sole source. Oftentimes there's a piece of competition because you have to still prove yourself. And
Absolutely. I do think that that's a part that gets lost in translation, that there's these sole source contracts and they're so lucrative, and the federal government is just, making them available to Native people. It is a competitive process. It is time consuming. It is expensive for all of us to do our due diligence and stay in compliance with the federal regulations. There is a very stringent audit process. It's just so difficult, I think, for folks to really comprehend what all goes into winning an 8A award. I wish it was easier.
Yeah.
I think we all do, but it is not easy. And I mean, really, it's probably not for everyone for that reason.
Yeah.
These are hard contracts to win.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, it's not only the auditing part too. There's recertification, and you still have to do the work.
You still have to do the work. Yes,
because
on top of
the
all of that.
goal is to keep getting another contract.
Yeah.
So so it's so important. I think people just don't always understand. They think it's just somebody's writing a check. Yeah. I think it's a great program. It's a great program for individuals. It's a great program for our ANCs and tribes and village corps to really, just all those benefits going back, to the community, I think is one thing. And for the individuals, it does help build growth in their company. And a lot of times there's partners with individual 8As with a larger entity on 8As.
Absolutely. It is just a beautiful model of self-determination. Yeah. And it's a service that the government needs. Yeah. And we are experts at leveraging in the Native community. And so we're very, I think, uniquely positioned across Indian country and Alaska to be able to perform these contracts.
And a lot of times, the companies that you work with and the companies I work with, if they're doing 8A development, it also opens the door for them to work with a Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman. I always encourage anyone that's looking at 8A, regardless of the size of the company, I said, if you're able to do work with the federal government and you're successful doing work with the federal government, let's look at other opportunities and other supply chains. And I know a lot of your companies are doing work all over with various different partners.
Yes, all over the globe.
So are there other policy things you guys are looking at, or what are some of your, now that you're a new leader, and not that you're a new leader, you've been a leader for a very long time, and we've already talked about your leadership positions, which is amazing. But what is your vision for ANCSA moving forward? And what do you see over the next 5-10 years?
Oh, wow. If only
if you have
I
that
had a
magic
crystal ball.
wand. Yes, a crystal ball, magic wand. Tell us what you'd like to see.
Yes. Well, we do not want to see any of the rights that we've negotiated with the federal government rolled back, whether it's in subsistence or healthcare, education. We want to continue to maintain all of those lines. We worked very hard to be where we're at as Alaska Natives. I want to continue to use our organization to improve the life outcomes of Alaska Natives. We've really come far in a short amount of time because of the way that our land claims were settled. It threw us into, Western corporate America sooner than we probably would have on our own. And as a result, a lot of our corporations these days are run by that second generation of leaders whose parents or family members were directly involved in negotiating NCAIED. So NCAIED is a very young act still, but it has been absolutely transformative. And where I see the regional association going in the next 5-10 years is continuing to have a presence here in DC, hopefully growing our presence. I'd eventually like to reach a point where, the education is a little more muscle memory than brand new with every administration. And I was just talking to some folks yesterday, Corey and his team at NFOA about it. Having to go to the Hill and re-educate the Hill staffers in every change of administration is puzzling. Congress is the one who drafted this law and imposed it, on us. But yet we're constantly on the Hill reminding them about the different provisions of NCAIED because there's turnover and you have some younger staffers. But I would hope that eventually we would be able to get to a point where our structure isn't such an anomaly. Yeah. And we could use our efforts in other areas than education.
It's amazing to me because I've been doing economic development in our communities for 20
yeah, a long time.
And how many times I've had to tell the story, or how many times you just have to explain it, and sometimes I wonder if there ever is an aha moment, because I want to support that vision. I want to be right there with you, and I want someone to be like, oh, Chris, you don't need to come. I know all about you. I
right.
know, and
yeah.
I think that's so important to make sure we have the right leaders who understand, because when they don't understand, they want to attack us.
Yes.
And they want to think that we're doing something, and the record of your members, the success record, the compliance record.
Right.
I mean, it's
the value added.
The value added. I mean, there should never be a question of why this is a bad thing.
Right.
But yet, every year, we have to sort of come up and explain of why it's a good thing. So I commend that vision. I want to be right there supporting you through that time, because I also would love to see that, because the impact that our companies are doing, the impact, all the statistics you've already said, are just it's a no-brainer to me. It's just
same.
Yeah, no-brainer.
No argument here.
So if you're listening, if you're up on the Hill, it's listening to us, it's a no-brainer. Learn about our companies, learn to ask the right questions,
right.
And someone is always there, available to tell the story or clarify any questions.
Yes. We're very fortunate too that we have such a strong congressional delegation. There's only 3, but the power, that they pack, they're constantly punching above their weight limit there.
Well, I really appreciate it. One thing I do want to sort of ask you about,
okay.
And I ask all of our guests sort of towards the end of our questions, is about work-life balance, because you have a huge job. You've had a lot of big jobs through your career. How do you balance that to keep yourself sort of sane and making sure that you're able to focus on you as well as doing great work?
That's the $1 million question, right? It's something that is always on my mind. Am I doing enough as a mom? Am I doing enough as a wife? Am I doing enough as a daughter, a sister? And sometimes things have gotten out of balance. I again, wish I had a crystal ball and all the answers there. But it's just something that you have to work at. I'm very fortunate. I married well in my husband, Emmanuel. My mom is really helpful as well when, duty calls and I need to be in DC. She's able to step in and help with the kids. I have 4 kids. So it's a struggle for work-life balance sometimes. Yeah. But I do tend to, when I'm working hard, I know that I need to have that flip side with my family, after. Yeah. And it's a process.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm right there with you. I have 3 adults now.
Okay.
But just that finding that time and because we get so focused in the work, so I've always tried. The older I've gotten, I do put the device down a little more than I might have earlier in my career. But I'm still always attuned on what's going on, but definitely between 6 and 8 in the evening is my family time, and I don't look at or try not to look at my phone. And,
yeah, same. We sit down at a dinner table as a family. So it's, little things from sort of an older school, sometimes I think, and lots of family time around the summer. Yeah. In fact, when I get home, we'll head down to the Kenai and do subsistence fishing. And so that's really how we connect with the kids and have that balance too.
Yeah, and it's good to have that family support. You mentioned your parents or your mom supporting that, and your husband supporting. So having all that infrastructure is so important. And I think a lot of times we when we are leading organizations and when we're trying to make policy and we're trying to make all these decisions, it's a lot of weight on your shoulders.
It is.
And so having that network, if it's friends or family or whatever, to help surround you, I think is so important.
Yeah. And I've been fortunate too to have a lot of female mentors, friends really, along the years, who will check in and say, hey, you've been going pretty hard in the paint, and don't forget it's okay. Someone else can step in and do things for a while. So surrounding yourself by friends who are going to be honest is another way that I have work-life balance as well.
That's so important too. It's nice. I tell my friends and even my colleagues, I said, call me out. You know, like if I'm doing something and if I can't hear that, if I can't be called out, then I'm not a good leader. I am just if and people have checked me and called me out a couple of times, so I'm okay with it.
You do work in Indian country.
I do. I get called out a lot. Yes.
It's a specialty.
It's a specialty. Nicole, I cannot thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your leadership. I really appreciate I wish I'm glad we're recording because I could take a lot of notes on some of the things you said. But I'm excited about you and your new position.
Thank you.
If the National Center can be a partner in any way, we'll be there to support. And,
absolutely.
Thank you for joining the Native Edge today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
And to our watchers and listeners, the Native Edge podcast is just one product of the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that serves all of Indian country, including Alaska and Hawaii. So if you want to learn more about either one of our organizations, there'll be information at the bottom of this podcast, as well as information on our websites. Nicole, thank you so much for joining the Native Edge. Until next time, I'm Chris James. Until next time on the Native Edge.